right. And it looks like we are live. Let me pull up my chat. Hey, can everybody hear me? How's the audio and visuals, guys? Let me know in the comments. It's a very exciting day. Very exciting day.
Yeah.
We've got some heavy hitters. Right? So tell me how the audio is and the sound. Everything's good. Good sound, good audio. Looks and sounds great. Excellent.
We love to hear it.
I don't know if you guys can tell, but I am definitely a little bit nervous. Definitely a little bit anxious because we've got Comicbookgirl19, Danica on the stream. And Danica is probably my biggest YouTube inspiration. Oh my God, I've seen every one of your videos. Just amazing content, amazing Dune content. So I'm just so happy to have you here.
My pleasure. I feel like a parent towards you. I'm just so proud of you, Quinn. And I'm so proud of your channel and just you're so smart, the videos you make and all the lore stuff, and you're just so on it. And that tweet I saw the other day about people who made Dune Messiah lore videos 6 years ago, and it has this guy, it's ha ha ha, and that is so you. I was cracking up. I was like, oh man, he's so smart.
Oh my God. So that's awesome. We've also got Nerd Cookies. How's it going?
Hey, I'm so happy to be here and so happy to just be able to nerd out on Dune with you guys and in the chat as well. This is so exciting.
Yeah, and this is also our first time chatting as well live. So, and then we also got Leo and Abu. How's it going, guys?
Hello.
Going so well. I mean, it's the era of Dune. Everyone's talking about this thing that we love and are obsessed with. I'm hearing my TikTok feed is all Dune memes by people not in my close
memes.
It's not like my close friends. It's strangers making jokes that I like. It's the best.
Yeah, the meme-ness of it all is just wow, it's just so funny. Funny ass new Dune memes every day, all day. I'm retweeting constantly. I'm cracking up. It's so good. I love it.
Dune has taken over the meme world, and we love to see it, right? So I've got links to everybody's Dune 2 reviews in the description. Check everybody out. And yeah, so the first 30 minutes of this, we are not going to talk about spoilers past the first Dune book, but we will be spoiling the first Dune book. So if you haven't read the book and you don't want to be spoiled, and you've somehow seen the movie, then I don't know.
Can't help
but if I don't know. But after 30 minutes, we're going to go into spoilers for the rest of the Dune saga. So if you don't want to be spoiled for the rest of the Dune saga, then you got to click out after 30 minutes. So that's how we're going to do this. And yeah. So what was everybody's general opinion of Dune Part 2? I mean, I tend to think of Dune Part 2 and Dune Part 1 as kind of the same movie because I feel like they flow right into each other. But how does everybody else feel? Who wants to jump in?
Abu, go.
I will happily take it away. I was just waiting for someone to say my name. So spoiler-free thoughts. I absolutely loved the movie. I loved the movie as a Dune adaptation. I loved the movie as a cinematic experience on its own. I loved the movie for what it's doing for the Dune franchise, right? Bringing it into the mainstream. Dune has been around for decades, of course, and there are Dune daddies, what Leo and I affectionately call spice daddies, out there, right? Who loved this franchise back in the 60s and 70s and 80s and then raised their kids and forced Dune upon them. And there are people who are just finding out about it this weekend, right? We have such a large spectrum of Dune fans at this point.
Yeah.
And that didn't exist back when, for example, Danica, you or Quinn, you started making Dune YouTube videos, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so I could not be happier with Dune Part 2. I could not be happier with Dune Part 1. Denis Villeneuve has truly delivered what I believe to be the definitive adaptation of a story that means so much to me.
He really, really lit a fire under the whole Dune franchise. Seriously, it's so popular now. It's like really, really popular. I see like memes with like 100,000 likes about Dune, which is like insane to me.
Mainstream memes.
That's
They have Dune Monopoly now.
Right,
Right,
what's going
right.
on?
Oh shit! I didn't know that.
I
Oh,
have Dune
dang.
Monopoly. I got it for Christmas.
But you buy the characters. What a wasted opportunity. I want to buy Poratrin.
Yeah. Oh, I just saw Anne's comment in the chat. I also want to acknowledge there are plenty of spice mommies out there too who thrust Dune upon their children. So
Great grandmothers and fans.
Yes, yes.
All right.
Nerd cookies, you're up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is amazing film, and we keep using the term cinematic experience because that's what it truly is. Like, it's not just any old time at the movies. It's one of those times where you remember going, like when you go see Jurassic Park or any of the Star Wars movies. It's just a moment in cinematic history to be remembered. So that's so awesome in and of itself, and that so many people will be now introduced and will want to be inspired to go read Frank Herbert's epic saga. Is that's awesome to me. As an adaptation, I have my issues with it. I think it's kind of middling because there's so much that's left out, and there's also like some changes that I'm a little worried about going forward. But I'm still so happy with what's been accomplished, obviously, and yeah. So that's where I stand. Awesome movie. Well, as far as adaptation wise, I'm a fan. I have my own little. I'm a Frank Herbertarian, so
Yeah.
I mean, there are definitely like significant changes. There are significant changes to this. It is not like a one-to-one adaptation of the book by any means.
But sometimes I just want more. I want the release the extended cut.
I know,
And,
and I keep hearing that. Well, I keep hearing that Denny is like, I don't do,
Right.
I don't do add-ons, and like we're not gonna have a director's cut, and it's just like, oh,
Please.
Yeah.
please, like,
Is
please.
there a dollar amount? Like,
Please.
say when. If
I
we
just
said
need to-
this much.
I need to see that Thufir scene. I need to see that shit. Like, I want to see that Count Fenring shit that you cut. Like, you can't. You went through the trouble to make it. Like, let me see it.
Meanwhile, Zack Snyder is making 2 versions
Oh.
of his.
yes, give me that 6-hour cut of Rebel
Oh my
Moon.
God.
Oh man.
Oh my god, what a disaster.
So
Leo,
Leo.
what do you got to say?
general feelings.
Oh, it was great. It was such a fun time. I think I might fall somewhere between Abu and Elaine in that I loved it as a movie, and I have said this over and over. It's like a 10 out of 10 movie for me. From a like purely lore standpoint, I have some nits that I pick, but at the end of the day, like, did that impact my ability to enjoy the film? No. Do I think the film would have been better if it had been more accurate? Also, potentially no. So I loved it. I had a great time. Yeah, multiple times. I looked over at Abu, like so excited to see his reaction in a moment. Of course, he takes off his headphones and leaves right as I'm talking about him. But I looked over at him,
Don't look
like
at me.
excited
Never
to
look
share a moment.
never look
with him.
directly into my eyes, Leo. Okay.
I know. It's a lesson I learned on our first
It's
recording.
dangerous.
But I looked over at him expecting to be like, oh my God, isn't this exciting? And he's having like a religious experience next to me watching this movie. And I'm like, all right, so I'm kind of on my own, like having this experience too. But I loved it. I had a great time. Danica, what about you? What was your...
Well, I have, there's so many things that I love about it, and there's also things that I have issues with. But like overall, I'm very excited that you have filmmakers, or I mean everyone who I feel like worked, like the John Spates, the writer, and Denis Villeneuve are both like hardcore Dune fans. And I love that, and you can tell and you can see that these people really care about this franchise. And it's so rare these days to have like filmmakers who actually understand the source material and who are fans of the source material and care about it, make this source material and turn it into something. And I love that. And I love that it's getting so many people to read the books. I love that it's getting all these memes. I love all the excitement and the hype around Dune. It's such what a time to be alive, like in the context of all that, I'm just so excited. And it's such a beautiful cinematic experience. Like you guys were saying, I mean, it's just like, damn, like this is worth seeing in the theater on the biggest screen you can get to. And cinemas have been having a hard time, especially post-COVID. So anybody who's like bringing people back to the theater, oh fuck yeah, like yes, very, very exciting. I love the cursed popcorn bucket.
Yes.
Like
Did
what?
anybody get it? Did y'all get it?
Oh, I have it.
Dan has it.
Yeah, I got mine.
Oh,
I
yeah,
got
there
mine,
we
baby.
go.
Like,
Amazing.
It's so
Amazing.
awful. It's so awful.
Yeah, careful where you point that hole because YouTube might take this down. So
I know.
Add some blurring, some like pixelated blurring.
But I, like everybody else is, not everybody, but I do have my own nitpicks with it too, and I do have concerns with it going into Dune Messiah because there are some major changes. But I'm also just like the thing that I really love about one of the things I really love about this film is it really got me thinking, and I'm still thinking about stuff, and I just like have. I don't know. I hope that I can get my thoughts together and put out another review later once I have more thoughts on everything. But I love that it's just like getting me to think so much, and it's giving me a lot to chew on, and that's great art. And that's Dune. I mean, that's why I love Dune so much and why I keep returning to it and keep reading it. Is because I learn something new every time I engage with it.
All right.
Totally. Amen.
Well,
That's
you
true.
guys know how I felt about this movie. Like I love the movie, and I just like went out of it thinking that, just feeling like very grateful that Villeneuve was the person that like made this, because I feel like we could have gotten like someone that like absolutely did not give a fuck, and that just like murdered the Frank Herbert book and just like made it an abomination. So like Danica
Abomination!
was saying, yeah, exactly. Like Danica said, like at the very least we got people that cared about what they were making. They like really cared, and it definitely does show. So I'm just very grateful to that. And I went into this movie knowing that there was going to be significant changes from the book. Like I totally understood that just based off of what I had seen in the first movie and how they like slimmed down the story. I expected the second half to be like more condensed and to have like things cut out. So I went in with that expectation, and the movie gave me what I needed. Like the movie gave me exactly what I wanted. It gave me the things that I needed, and it didn't also shy away from something that I thought they might have shied away from, which was like the Holy War. Even though they didn't use the word
Jihad.
they didn't. They shied away from the word jihad. But I really thought they might like not even do the Holy War. But I like the fact that the movie ended with the understanding that this isn't the end of the story, and that there's more to come. That there's more to Paul's story. Instead of it just being like, oh, this is the ending. So yeah, I love the movie. Like I said, I've seen it 3 times now. Probably gonna go see it again. Definitely gonna go see it again. So yeah, so I loved it. Even though there are definitely things that definitely changes that I didn't like as much. Obviously, definitely things that were changed that I didn't mind, and there was also things that were changed that I kind of liked. Like I liked how we got to see more of Margot Fenring, and like we got to see like how Bene Gesserit operate a little bit more, like with like that whole
She's
thing.
perfectly
So,
cast.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was
so
awesome.
good. She secured
Also,
the bag. Woo.
seeing the Jabbar test on Feyd was like, my jaw was on the floor. I was so blown away.
Leo dropping spoilers 15 minutes in.
We've been talking spoilers this whole time.
Yeah. No, well, it's
Yeah,
for
this
book
is
one
spoilers.
spoilers.
Book one spoilers.
Yeah. If you haven't seen the movie, you need to leave.
Yeah.
I think it's enough time by now. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, go see it. Come on.
So
Danica's got the timer. I'm not saying a word until she says so.
We're saying book one spoilers.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
only later.
Yeah, we're talking
later
about
things.
changes.
Yeah.
I will say, to Quinn's point, though, I also really liked many of the additions because I think Villeneuve took things that were implied off page or events that took place off page, or even entire characters that happened off screen in the book, and brought them front and center. You know, we got to see certain characters face off with other certain characters. We got to see the motivations of certain events and the connections between them that are implied in the book. In some cases, at least in my opinion, they're sort of glossed over in the book, especially in that third act. Villeneuve, I think, stitched in and filled in some of the dotted lines that are missing from that last third of the book. And I really liked that. The additions, I think, worked and connected all of the dots that they needed to.
Yeah, and it's definitely to imply that Margot Fenring is maybe going to be the one that's going to carry Feyd's baby, because in the book, when she's there, she looks at Feyd and she goes, "Is this who the Reverend Mother was talking about? Is this a bloodline that we must preserve?" So, and I noticed in the movie, like she says, "Oh, we've preserved the bloodline," so they use kind of the same language. So yeah. So since
And I
go
wonder
ahead.
if they're gonna like. I mean, since they did Margot Fenring, and in the books, or at least in the Frank Herbert books, the product of their coupling is never seen again or heard from. But I wonder, since they showed it in the movie, like, will that be included in Messiah? I would
thought the
assume
same
that they
thing.
would have to.
I thought the same
Paul
thing.
of Dune. I don't know.
I hope not.
Let's not do that.
I feel like there's so much already in Dune
I think-
Messiah that they need to do.
I think
I
there could
know.
be a line
Hopefully
where
not.
a Bene Gesserit character says to another Bene Gesserit character, "We're still good on that front. We are okay, cool. Like she's off on Wallach 9. Okay, excellent. You know, just in case things go super
I'm
badly,
raising the
we've
volume
got
on my
that."
mic. Sorry,
So-
people were saying my mic was low.
In general, I think there's a way for them to do it without getting into let's introduce a whole new character and everything that happens with that child.
I also
sure.
think if it was to emphasize Jessica's disobedience and not having a daughter, I don't know if it was like just to foreshadow something to come, but rather just to emphasize, you know, just her disobedience and the abomination that now is Paul or something.
It's I mean, that's a great point because we got people asking us, wait, I'm confused. People who only saw the movie, they're like, why is it a problem that Jessica had a son? I don't get it. And you have to clarify for people who maybe don't know the deep lore. It's like, yeah, they can choose. So having that scene in the second movie is really, I thought, was brilliant because it tells the more casual moviegoer, this is something they can do by command. Like a daughter as you ordered.
As you ordered, exactly.
But I loved all of the Getty Prime scenes. I thought that was genius. The Black Sun, I think that was a
My
really
favorite
good aesthetic choice.
A plus, A plus, fellas.
Greg
A
Fraser is
Agreed.
amazing. I love all of his work so far. It's just top notch, and definitely another Oscar-winning turn, I think.
The Black Sun was so sick. That was so freaking cool. I was like, that's the best
Man.
idea I've ever heard of. That was
So
Also,
good.
the way the shield looked in the Black Sun, like when Feyd powers it on in the Coliseum, I was like, I fell in love with the shield again. Two times I've fallen in love with this thing. It's so cool looking.
Yeah, and I like the as somebody who studies symbols, like there is a symbol that in the occult recognizes the black sun, which is like something that's good, but it's like bad. Like it feels bad. It feels very negative, but in the end, it's something that's like for your growth. And I was like, ooh, like I mean, I'm sure I don't know if they intended that or not, but I was like, as somebody who pays attention to symbols, I was like, ooh, the black sun. No, it's perfect for the Harkonnens. Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Although I've had to redo, like it's not Harkonnen anymore. It's Harkonnen, which I'm trying to make that change.
Harkonnen.
I know
Well,
there's a
Frank
few
Herbert
things
was
that-
fine with either, so
I'm
I'd
not
say
changing my
let it fly.
pronunciation. I've been saying these names like how I've been saying them for years, and it's like
Yeah.
I'm not changing it.
Well, there's Chanis, there's Chanies, because people who listen to the
Chani.
book, it's Chani, but I
was
always,
the
but
same
it's
way.
in the movies, it's Chani.
I just picture Dick Cheney in every scene, and it's not cute.
Not
But I
cute.
initially thought that the monochrome look was, I didn't know if it was just for the arena itself, because kind of like the black for, what was it, white for poison, black for purity. I thought it was something like a Harkonnen custom, and they just like made it so like visually emphasized the black and white and just made the whole arena. So that was kind of neat when they came out and said it's the black sun that does that, and then they have the interior scenes that have some color. Like that was
Yeah.
just so cool, a little detail like that.
Yeah. I also liked the detail where Margot Fenring is sitting in her little box, and then her fellow Bene Gesserit sisters come out, and they come out from the interior into the exterior, into the sunlight, and the black robes, the iconic black robes of the Bene Gesserit,
So
turn
good.
pure white.
Yeah.
Genius.
And to
So
Elaine's
cool.
point, like this
brilliant.
idea of black and white, the idea of like purity and deception, so fitting for what we know the Bene Gesserit do with pulling the strings from the shadows.
So
Yeah.
since we talked a little bit about casting, what's everybody's like favorite or like least favorite casting? Somebody start.
Zendaya.
Zendaya.
Zendaya, least favorite, Zendaya.
Least? Most?
Least,
Which
least.
one?
It's my least favorite. I'm sorry.
Oh.
I have a similar thing too when I saw her in Spider-Man No Way Home. I just can't get the chemistry from her. And there were actually some moments though that I liked. I did like the sand walk between Paul and Chani. I thought that
Yeah.
was really nice, and the music was really nice. But yeah, just not. Maybe I'm just not from this generation of what is
So
it, Gen Z.
it's like the chemistry between
Just wasn't
Paul
working for
and
me.
Chani. Yeah, okay. I
Yeah,
But
get that.
some moments did. Some moments did work for me. I was just like, mostly it was just, I don't know.
I think
just
in
don't get it.
specific context, she works as an actress, like in Euphoria. Like she's great. Like that's something that she can do. But I think that she's a very small range as an actress, and playing, a crazy drug addict teen in California. It's like, yeah, she can do that. She's around that. She knows about that. But like Fremen, Chani, all that sort of shit. Like she's just way out of her depth. Like she's way out of her league. And I understand the casting because she's very exciting to Gen Z, and she's a big, star right now. She has star power and people will come to see her. So, I mean, I understand why they cast her, but I just don't think that she had the acting abilities to fill that role.
And also, the character too is very different from the book. It's written very different.
Yeah.
So I get why some people don't like those differences and those changes as well. For me, my least favorite casting in the movie. It's not like I hate anybody. I don't think I hate anybody's casting,
No.
but my least favorite casting, I think it's. Some people might get mad, but the Emperor.
Yeah,
Like I was giving it a try.
Yeah,
I was gonna
yeah,
do a
yeah.
second on my
giving it a
list.
try.
Yeah.
And I
Couldn't
was
agree
like,
more.
okay, Christopher
More.
Walken.
I need to hear more.
But when I saw it, now that I've seen it several times, I'm just like, he doesn't bring anything to it.
Yeah.
I am
I don't
so
know.
mystified by that choice. I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
I was
Okay.
mystified when he announced it. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I love him as an actor. He's so iconic. But just for this role in particular, it's like, what was Villeneuve seeing that I'm just not seeing? And
Yeah.
I will say, I really
Yeah.
liked some scenes. I talked to Abu about this, of course, but like the scene where the Harkonnens are in front of him and he's like perched on the throne like this vulture. It's this like, it's very the scene, the setting is very cool, but it's his voice and his vocal delivery that just pulls me right out of it. I was
Right.
thinking though, we're seeing him kind of hobble around and he's very like unimpressive in his power and his presence. And that could be a kind of fun commentary on the fact that this is a facade. Like this age-old empire is not as strong as it is made out to be. This is the man that everyone's worried about. More. It's like, okay, sure, yeah, maybe. But I think he is the one that was like the most actively distracting. I think Zendaya for the scenes that worked and the scenes that didn't. I was like still in it with her and with the characters. I think
Yeah.
Walken was the one who most pulled me out of the moment, and I was like,
he did.
that's
He
Christopher
pulled me
Walken.
out. Like I think the first line he spoke on Arrakis, I just just two Muad'Dibs fall in a bucket of cream. That's what I was thinking.
When it
Have you
came,
seen that meme?
when it came to the
but-
Emperor, oh sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I also missed the decadence of the Emperor. It didn't really seem like he was like this super rich, crazy, decadent dude. I was looking for like the gold, like David Lynch's Dune. They kind of killed that throne.
Oh my God.
Like
That throne.
that-
Oh.
Like
God
that's
bless the
like
Mexicans. Like that is a beautiful
That
was
set.
the
You guys
Golden
did such a
Lion
good job
throne.
making that. Woo.
yeah. And I just missed like the decadence and like the this is the imperial seat. Like I don't know. And then also like I wish there was the crystal throne at the end too. That would have been cool. But I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there
Yeah,
was one in the trailer. There was a moment where they stitched together, like Paul Atreides is still alive, and Christopher Walken, like he just blinks and looks up at the. I know, like, oh, okay, that was cool. Like he can just say so much with just not saying anything. But yeah, when he did open
true.
his mouth, some of the scenes were like, they were just not as impactful as I was hoping, and yeah, kind of took you out of it. But we didn't see him that much. That was another thing that. I know he only had a few of those scenes, and I think Irulan was really meant to be, kind of propped up in that regard because we're going to see her more probably, obviously, yes, and
For sure.
moving forward. So I think that's why they wanted to promote her more, which I loved Princess Irulan in this. I thought Florence Pugh was really good.
Yeah, agreed.
So yeah, that
So-
wasn't a part I didn't have any nitpicks with.
I think with the Emperor is that he's supposed to look like he's 45 or so, even though he is really old.
True.
He takes the spice, and so he looks a lot younger than he is. And he's also cousins to Duke Leto, and it's remarked that they do look very similar. Like they look alike even.
They're all related.
Yeah, I mean, they are.
Benny Gesserit has been
They're all
mixing them all around. So,
Yeah.
so my favorite casting was probably Javier Bardem
Oh,
as Stilgar.
so good.
To me, that was like the best casting in the entire movie. Like, as soon as I like heard that he was going to play Stilgar, I was like, yes. I don't even think I knew he was going to play at first, and I was like, is he Stilgar? Because
he's so
that's
good.
just so perfect. And I really, really enjoyed not only his performance, but the way they wrote Stilgar in the second half of this movie, because it is a little bit different than the way they're like writing him in the first one. So yeah, I really, really love Stilgar. That's my favorite casting.
And did you see Javier Bardem in an interview said that when he read the book when he was 25, Stilgar was like one of his favorite characters.
Oh, I
And
didn't know that.
He's been
Oh,
dreaming to play this role.
called him and said, I have a role for you in my movie, and describes the role. And at the end, Denis said, and you know the name of this character. And Javier said, it's Stilgar. And I can't bring it to me.
And he got to ride the sandworm too. That was
got
his
to
dream
ride the
too.
sandworm. It was so cute. I love it.
So yeah, I think those are the only two that I felt were kind of miscast for me. But everyone else, in my opinion, I think is very well cast. I don't really have any other issues with that. Even down to the minor supporting roles, like the maker tender. I don't know
Oh
what
yeah,
you call that, but
Right.
they were
who
cool.
tended the little makers. She was
Yeah.
so cool. I don't know.
Yeah.
There was
Absolutely. Yeah.
now Shishakli, I don't know, but for the most part, all of the casting was just so good. I just loved it.
Yeah. I mean, my pick for best actor, it's hard to pick, of course, because I truly think they all did so well outside of Christopher Walken. For me, like, honestly, my answer is like super basic. It's Timmy. Like him, Cave of Birds scene, I am Duke of Arrakis, I will lead you to paradise.
Unreal.
Like that was like an out of body experience for me watching that scene. And I think I remember reading somewhere that Denis Villeneuve has said that he would not have committed to this project if Timothée Chalamet had turned down the role. Because
wow.
to him, Timothée Chalamet was Paul Atreides. And I'll admit, like, I loved Dune Part 1, but I wasn't necessarily entirely sold on Timothée Chalamet as my Paul Atreides. I am a believer in Dune Part 2. I think he brought, especially in that third act, when his entire tone shifts, post Water of Life, the level of acting there, the range there to go from our sort of like concerned hero falling in love with Chani to now our Messiah, incredible stuff. And I think Timothy like absolutely crushed it. And I'm with Denny now. I can't see anyone else as Paul Atreides. He's my Paul Atreides.
Also vocally, like it's unreal how much power he brought to his voice for so many of those scenes. It's like it was electric. I remember the first scene that they shot with him was the Jabbar scene from the first movie, and Denis said that after seeing that scene come together, he was like, "Okay, I know the movie's going to work and it's going to be great." And looking back on that scene, the moment that Timothy is going through the pain, the agony, and then he gets the fire in his eyes as he looks up at Mohiam and he's like, "You're not gonna, break me with this." Like seeing that, but then seeing how much further he can take it in this movie, it's just unreal. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I liked his performance in the first movie, but I really, really liked his performance in this movie. He definitely took it up a notch for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think
Austin
as
Butler,
very
though?
required. Yeah. Oh, Austin Butler, my goodness, he brought it.
Yeah, he murdered it.
He's so hot.
Good, he killed it. I like
Yeah.
him now. I didn't pay him much attention, but this is the first movie that I've seen him in that I like stood up and paid attention. I was like, oh, I understand the hype. I see it now. Like he's a great actor.
Yeah,
I
he's
didn't
so
know
dedicated.
anything about him before this movie. I
Yeah,
literally,
same.
I guess I knew that he was like the Elvis person. I didn't know anything at all about him, and he definitely killed it. He was creepy and then like hot in a weird way, and it was just like it was a perfect. it was just a really good Feyd-Rautha performance. And damn, that kiss was intense. When
Yeah.
he like grabs the bear and he kisses his mouth. I was like, Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like,
I
I'll
was
do your
there. I
bidding,
felt
Uncle.
it. I felt that kiss. It was great.
It felt very
Yeah.
Godfather-ish to me.
Yeah.
You know?
Mhm.
Great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and the black teeth. Cool.
Yeah.
So good. So good.
Nice.
I mean, Leo and I were chatting about this earlier, but I think the like sort of magic he does with that role is that it's very tempting if you're playing Feyd-Rautha to lean too hard into the evil, psychotic caricature, right? I'm the foil to Paul Atreides, so I'm not the hero, I'm the villain. Let me be as crazy as possible with it. And I think what Austin Butler did so well is the psychotic was certainly there, but we also saw him be like the cool, collected warrior
Yeah.
Feyd-Rautha in the Colosseum when he's up against Landville. You can almost see that flip, like that switch flip in his mind where he's like, oh, this is serious, actually. I need to fight. And
Yeah.
it's less the showmanship and
Yeah.
more the actual warrior that Feyd-Rautha is. So he
Did
balanced that
anybody-
really well.
Did anybody else see a little bit of Matt Smith in his like performance at all?
Doctor Who?
Yeah.
I
Is
don't
that just
know.
me?
I wasn't really
I-
thinking about it.
Because it was there was a sort of like playful challenge in his expression and in that Colosseum fight. But another thing I loved from that scene was when Landville dies, right, and he kills Landville. He's "You fought well, Atreides," that whole line, but then repeats the line later when he loses. That sort of like baked in honor. He's like, "Yeah, a good fight's a good fight. Like I'm crazy. I'll just kill an attendant because whatever." But a good fight's a good fight, and I respect a good fighter. And there was like that sense of like honor, which was
Yep.
delightful.
One thing that I liked that they used Feyd for was like I like how they were like trying to show you how the Bene Gesserit really operated, right? So like she takes him and she gives him like the Jabbar test, right? And like ostensibly this is like a test of like your like awareness, but it's also like how the Bene Gesserit like get a profile on like what type of person you are. So like I like how they showed that, and they were showing how the Bene Gesserit operate in that sense, and they were using Feyd as a tool to like show the way the Bene Gesserit go about doing things.
Yeah.
Right. And it also speaks to their breeding program, right? They're not just looking for the quote unquote good guy to be
We can
their
get the spoilers
Kwisatz.
now.
Nice.
Oh,
Excellent.
Spoilers are on.
Full spoilers
Snake
are
kills
on.
Dumbledore.
If you have
Snape
not
kills
read,
Dumbledore.
if you have not read past Dune Book 1, if you have not read these books and you care about spoilers, now is the time to check out. But if you're just ready to go, then we're gonna go. We're gonna go.
Wonderful.
And
All right.
come back later.
But as I was saying, like it speaks to their breeding program
Yeah.
in that they're looking for certain traits in a candidate, and those traits aren't just protagonist energy, for lack of a better term. They need specific genetics, they need specific traits. They've been breeding them for generations, and you might look at Feyd-Rautha and be like, he can't be the hero the Bene Gesserit are looking for, but he is. So I liked that it broadens the scope of their plan. They are getting to an end, and for the Bene Gesserit, in many aspects, any means will justify that.
I like too how they were talking about the levers of how they can
Yeah.
control
Right.
him, and
Right.
like humiliation and like sexual levers. And there was somebody who's like a BDSM person I saw on Twitter talking about how like they're like, oh, that totally makes sense for somebody like who's like this big macho guy, but then like he's really a sub in the bedroom, but in the arena he's like killing everybody, and I'm like, that's so
And Margot's
interesting.
clearly a dom. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Dude, woo!
And if you've read the books, that also kind of shows how different Feyd is from Paul, because in the book, at that one
Paul's
scene,
the dom.
like someone's trying to sexually control Paul, and Jessica's like, "Oh, they're trying to control Paul through sex. That'll never work on Paul,
Yeah, true.
because he's not Feyd, and he can't be controlled through the same way. Everyone has different levers through which the Bene Gesserit control them.
Yeah,
and that's
thank
also
you,
like."
Steve. Good
I don't know if they necessarily get into this, but that's kind of how the power of voice works too. You have to like know the person on
Right.
some level before you can like. It's not like the Jedi. You can't just like make anybody do anything at any point in time. You have to know kind of who that person is first.
Yeah,
Totally.
that's fascinating, and I do like that to a point. I think the only thing that bothered me about that, and I put this in my review, was that they were kind of putting their bloodline at risk, and it just looked like a risk that the Bene Gesserit wouldn't have taken at that point, or felt it necessary to take, especially since Paul was also in a dangerous position too. And that's just my book brain, uh, influencing me, because that was the whole plan, was to preserve the bloodlines, because the Kwisatz Haderach would come from both of these bloodlines that they've been tending for generations. That was the only thing that I didn't like, but I think it was to emphasize other things and other aspects, like y'all were saying.
Yeah.
And it's not like they emphasize that as well as in Dune Part 2, as far as the bloodlines, preservation of that. So it was a little bit confusing for me when the pain box was brought out.
Yeah.
But there were also things that I did enjoy about that, kind of expanded upon Feyd's role, especially like when he went to Arrakis and
Yeah.
kind of like got things all in line and put his brother. I really like the dynamics
I
that they
like
showed
that.
between
Yes.
him and Beast. That was really cool. I loved, honing in on the Harkonnen family dynamics, because we knew that was there in the books, but it wasn't. Seeing them all together was kind of neat to really highlight the corrupt and you know nature of the Harkonnen household. I
So,
thought was cool.
since we're in the spoiler territory now, how do you guys think some of the changes in this movie are going to affect how they're going to adapt the next movie? Because, like, at the end of the book, the guild steps in and they're like, Paul's emperor. But at the end of this movie, he's like, oh, I'm going to wage war on the Landsrad, which is a pretty different ending from the book. And then also, like, the timeline is already different. So, like, do you guys think in the next movie, like, how much of a time jump are they going to be willing to do, right? Because the book skips over all that. The book is like, oh, that already happened. So we're already past that by the time we get to the book. Now, I wonder is Denis Villeneuve going to be willing to do that and skip over all of that action? Or is it going to be kind of like maybe we get a time jump, or maybe he's going to do something else and condense the timeline even more? How do you guys think that could potentially go? Who wants to go?
Who wants to go?
I'm curious to hear what Danica thinks.
It's so hard to say, because it's gonna have to be so different.
Yeah.
Like the way that it's ended, and all the changes that have made, like, are going to be powerful shifts. And so I really don't fucking know. Like, I really don't know how he's going to do it, and it makes me nervous. Like, I really want to see Dune Messiah, but I'm also a little nervous about it, because it's going to be something that's totally off the map, I feel like.
Yeah, most of my issues that I had with the film, I mean, I loved a lot of it, but I think most of my core issues that I had were things that were altered that could affect Dune Messiah's story. And so there was, like what you were saying, Quinn, with the Spacing Guild, they didn't come in at the end, and they were ones transporting everyone, right? And they had
They
the
don't
costumes.
care about the spice? Where are they?
They had the costumes for him. We saw them in Doom Part 1. I thought that was so strange to not even see them in the Emperor's entourage. And because they have an incredibly vested interest in the spice. And that was another thing too, with the spice connection to the sandworms. That is a huge ecological theme that we seem to have been missing. And that, I feel like we need a lot of world building and lore for Dune Messiah to work. And I'm nervous that we're not going to get it, because it's been so streamlined so far.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that I'm worried about moving forward. I think the Bene Gesserit are safe. We're definitely going to get Wallach 9, and we're definitely going to get their Reverend Mother and Florence Pugh and all of their interests focused on. But I'm worried about, since we didn't see much of the Mentats and the Spacing Guild, are we going to see the Telaxu? Are we going to see the Spacing Guild have a huge part in the conspiracy that's coming?
Yeah.
So that's my major concerns. That, like you were saying, Danica, it's going to be changed, and I can't foresee what it is.
Right. I don't know what this future looks like. The Leilaxu too. It's like, do you think he's going to do the Leilaxu? I just can't.
Yeah,
If he didn't do Alia, do you think he's going to do Bijaz? I don't know.
And Bijaz, oh my god, I forgot about
Bijaz.
Bijaz.
I've been debating Me and my husband have been debating about Bijaz for like a
Yeah.
long time. Like, is he going to do it? Is he not going to do it?
I doubt it.
And
There's no way.
I don't think he's going to do Bijaz. He's not going to do the Catalyst
No.
Dwarf. Like, he's not going to do
And the
People
shape
have been
of-
casting
the
like
shape
fan
of water
casting Peter
edge.
Dinklage.
It's one of the most.
Yeah.
It's a
But
really.
when you think about it, like Bijaz is one of the easiest characters to write around. You know,
Yeah.
you just write a different plot there, and you don't need to waste time casting a character,
But
introducing a
Sidetail?
character, writing a character.
Sidetail's- yeah.
Sidetail, you
I don't
is
know if
necessary.
it's as easy. Yeah.
You can't. I don't think you can write around Sidetail, but like Bijaz is easy enough to write around.
I also
I
wouldn't.
don't think
Yeah.
we're gonna see him in
Want
I
them
Messiah.
think
to.
Wallach
think
9's going to
Sidetail
be
is fun.
sick. But
Wallach 9.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I saw some. Did you guys see that concept art?
Yeah.
From the art book about Wallach 9?
No.
I have the art book.
I gotta
haven't
get that
looked
art
at it.
book. Ugh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm stoked.
Yeah.
I think Wallach 9 will look very cool in the next movie.
Even though I'm pretty sure he's not going to do Bijaz. Bijaz is such a cool, like, weird Dune thing.
great.
Like how
Yeah,
he's
he's
like
weird.
got this weird, like he conditions Duncan with this weird, like sound programming. It's
Right,
just
the
so
sing-songy,
weird
yeah.
and
He's
cool.
prescient, right? He's prescient.
It's
Yeah,
it's
right.
just like it's so cool. Yeah,
But
a
he's
twisted,
such
weird
he's
little
such a
guy.
like Tom Bombadil character, right? It's
yeah,
just like,
exactly.
You know,
But considering what they did with Alia and kind of sidestepping her strangeness, that's kind of why I'm a little concerned if he's hesitant to embrace the strange and otherworldly elements. Yeah, there are things that I'm worried about if they'll be streamlined or just more Benny Gesserit focused, which isn't a problem, but you need the Spacing Guild, and I think you need Sidetail as well. So
Honestly,
I don't know if
I'd
you
be-
could write around that.
Denny himself has said that he wanted to frame these films through the lens of the Benny Gesserit. Like he's telling a Benny Gesserit story, and that's one of the key reasons characters like Thufir was cut from the movie, because like as much as he loves Mentats, as much as Thufir is great,
Yeah.
we needed those scenes of Moheim and Irulan talking on Chiton in this movie to frame this through the lens of a Benny Gesserit plot.
Right,
And
the movie-
so, you know, I hear your concern, Elaine. Like, Denny seems to be focusing this story through the lens of the Benny Gesserit.
Yeah, the movie is very sparse on lore, right? You don't really learn that much about
Yeah.
the Mentat. You don't really learn really
Yeah,
much
Paul
about the
isn't a
spice.
Mentat in
Paul
this?
isn't a
Yeah.
Mentat.
True.
And you don't know really anything about the spice. I feel like a lot of this movie, if you've read the books, like you can put it all together really easily. But if you've not read the books, there's a lot of holes, actually. There's a lot of
For
like
sure.
things that aren't really touched on and aren't explained that you just kind of have to do like guesswork, which is just really ambiguous. Like the nature of spice. I don't think they explain that spice like extends your. Do they say that spice
No.
extends life? I don't think they
Nope.
say it, which is like to me like I don't. That was one of the things where I was like, I don't get why you can't just say that the spice extends life, because that's key to why like everyone is also like super anxious about the spice, because not only is it like the fuel of the universe essentially,
Right.
people are addicted to it and they're gonna
Yeah.
die if they don't get the spice, so they need
Right.
that spice. So that's why the
Right.
Landsrat is here.
And it's rich people.
It's rich
You know,
people.
like the elites take it.
And they call the sandworms the maker.
People are saying they
Like, they
did
put
say it
that
in
in
the
the
first
movie.
movie. People
Oh,
are saying
they
they
did.
did. They mentioned it in the first movie.
Yeah, but I don't think it was very briefly, and I don't think it was really emphasized the full weight of it. And yeah, we hear the term the maker several times, but we don't really see what that means as far as Shai Hulud. And so if you just go by the films, I think maybe you only think that they make the water of life, because they actually did show that. They showed how they get the serum or extract this water of life. But as far as everything else goes, and the full life cycle of the sandworm, yeah, they didn't show any of that, and that kind of feeds into my issues with the ending. There was a lot of little things. Paul just threatened to nuke the spice fields. It wasn't to end the
Right, the
spice
spice
production
cycle.
at all. And I feel like
Yeah.
if they did have that, then everything would have bent to his whim, like that. You couldn't have.
Well, didn't he,
yeah.
in the tent with Chani, didn't he say, if you control a thing, you know, ultimate control of a thing or something? He said that line
Yeah.
from the book.
I mean, it would have
He did.
interrupted
I think the
spice
implication-
production.
Well, I think the implication there was actually, I'll nuke all the spice and bye-bye spice. So if y'all want your spice, don't mess with me. I thought that implication was quite clear, and he even says the line like, when you know, absolute control of a thing gives me
Yeah.
control of the politics. Of
I mean,
the-
he did just say
so-
spice fields. So I guess if we're to make the connection to just just the planet itself produces spice and that's it.
Yeah.
But
Right.
Again,
to me,
I think the
weight.
greatest challenge of this group is to like ask the questions like that. Like what does the average moviegoer who hasn't read the book think? Because I can hear Paul say that line about nuking the spice fields, and I can be like, oh yeah, that'll stop spice production. Everyone's addicted. You know, I start making all these connections, but maybe.
But then the Spacing Guild should have made
viewer
sure that everyone bent to his whim, because it was illegal ascension to the throne. I'm sorry. Illegal means to ascend to the throne, not illegal. Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Anyways,
yeah.
and he had the power to, like, you know, the full weight of the spice, control of the spice in his ultimatum. And I think that's how the beginning of the film started, with the throat singer.
Power over spice is power over all.
Yes. Yeah. And I was just waiting to hear that, and it just didn't carry that same weight to me. But again, it's just book brain, I guess. It's like interrupting my.
Which, by the way, I had the crazy like tinfoil idea that like the voice at the beginning was like the God Emperor's like stolen journals, and that like these movies are just like the stolen journals. I think that would be so cool. And people were like, why would he be speaking Sardaukar? And I'm just like, he speaks like all the languages. Sometimes he would just, maybe he likes certain qualities of that language. Maybe that language conveys like certain subtleties, and he just wanted to speak Sardaukar. Don't ask why.
It's just for funsies. He does what he wants.
Yeah,
Right.
I did a video on that, on dreams or messages from the deep. I thought that definitely seemed like God Emperor-ish.
That's the God Emperor. Like, who else would say that? Dreams or messages from the deep? Like, come on.
Yeah. Did you guys feel like, for like Dune Messiah, so, you know, the ending shot of the film, I did not like it, with Chani being all like, me, I'm gonna get my worm, and I was very confused by what that's trying to say. And it's like, are they setting her up to be the person who's going to take Paul down or something in the second film? And I did hear that he does have that line where it's like, oh, she'll come around, I've seen it. But do you, I don't know, like that's so weird, because to end it like that, but then it's like, oh, in the next film she's just gonna be like, oh, it's fine, and we got back together and we had kids or whatever. It's like, well, then why the fuck did she have her whole arc if that's what's going to happen?
I was saying this to Abu. I was very skeptical going into this movie that we could get to a point where we believed that they loved each other, considering the last movie ended with them having said like nothing to each other. She's like, you're going to die. At least you'll die holding this knife. And that's the nicest thing she said to him in the first movie. Yeah. And then in the second movie, we're like, oh yeah, they clearly love each other. And I'm upset that she's not more in love with him in this moment where she should want to bring him back from the dead or whatever. So I'm sort of in a place of just, I trust that Denis will do it in a way that works. I don't know what that looks like, and he'll have to, but I
hate that she's not ride or die. I love ride or die Chani. They're such star-crossed lovers. And there's another thing that's missing from this that's in the books, is that the Fremen are polygamous. I mean, they have many wives. It's even discussed. Jessica is like, I could hook up with Stilgar and maybe be his wife. Yeah. And then it was like, no, maybe not. And then and it's so funny, people are like, oh, she would be mad because Irulan. And it's like, well, he already had a wife forced upon him when he killed Jameis.
He has Hurrah.
Yeah. You know, like he's already, but he didn't touch her
and
either.
2 kids.
And 2 kids.
Lest you forget about them for the next 5 books straight. Lest we forget.
I know, I love her. I miss her so much. But it's and that's why Irulan wouldn't be that bummed, or Chani wouldn't be that bummed about Irulan. Because it's like, well, she comes from a culture where they have multiple wives. Like, it's fine.
Yeah. And what happens? Sorry, you go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was going to say, okay, and what happens at the end of the movie, too, is like with Chani, is like exactly the reason there can't be like a 12-year jump in the next movie, because you have to like resolve this first. Right? Yeah. You can't just like jump and like, oh, she's married to Paul and trying to have a baby now. Like, what? Not married, but, you know, his concubine. So you have to resolve that. So there's unresolved stuff that you can't just skip over that in a movie and have it be satisfying. Like, it works more in a book just because that's Frank Herbert's writing style. He likes to skip. He skips like 1,500 years, 3,000 years later. So like 12 years isn't anything. So, but for a movie, I don't know. I feel like Dune Messiah is going to end up. Dune Messiah already doesn't lend itself that well to being adapted as a movie.
It's so sad.
So, like,
and I feel like if you're gonna do Dune Messiah, you got to do children.
Yeah,
That's the real trilogy.
that's the
I
real
know.
trilogy. Like,
Now Villeneuve
exactly.
said just wait. He needs to wait and see how he feels after Dune Messiah. He did. I did see a quote from that said, "Ask me again after Dune Messiah comes out." So it could still happen, but we also, I mean, it could happen under another filmmaker as well. So I'm still holding out hope. But yeah, there's such this conflict that I'm having with the timeline too, that it's all different now. Now, Villeneuve did say that he is looking forward to working with both Florence Pugh and Anya Taylor-Joy for Dune Messiah.
Right.
So I think that may confirm that there is a time jump. She's going to be in it. Anya Taylor-Joy, that is. But that also, with the time jump, kind of conflicts with how things left open-ended with Chani. And so I'm like, how is this going to work? Because we need to have this resolved on screen, I feel. And we did have that line from Paul that said, she's going to come around to my way of seeing things. I've seen it, or something like that. So I don't know if she's just going to be in the palace. Some have theorized that maybe she's already pregnant at this time, and that's the reason she comes back. And I'm not sure about that. I also think possibly she may come to see that it was Jessica, and maybe she'll blame Jessica mostly for the for what's happened as far as the religious manipulation of her people and the holy war. And maybe she'll come to see Paul as just at the whim of destiny, and he's just trying to mitigate the losses, and that he really doesn't have any control of anything. He's just trying to pick the timeline that works best for humanity in the long run. Maybe she'll come to see that, but that requires dialogue, that requires time, and that requires lore.
That's my thing. I don't doubt that it can be potentially resolved, but in one movie, she goes from like that.
Yeah.
I just don't know, unless they're going to be doing some serious like flashbacks or like time jumps, which I don't know if he's going to be willing to do that or not. So I don't know. That's up in the air for me.
Yeah.
I had the thought, I think the editing of the final scene and this final sequence from the duel basically to the end of the movie very much reinforces that sort of, she is jealous of Irulan, she's the shunned lover, she's upset about this romantically. And that is, I think, the thing that a lot of us have a problem with, because that's not really who Chani is as a character from the books. But I was talking to Abu, and the thought came up that if she was holding out hope that Paul was still the rebellious, still that I'm going to dismantle these power systems and still this thing, that moment of I'm going to take this other woman's hand in marriage and become the emperor and become the man, capital T, capital M, that is what she is so hurt by. And so maybe also we get, 10 years down the line, 12 years down the line, he's coming back from this, dismantling the power structures and creating this new thing. And she sees, this is not exactly what I thought it was, And maybe it's less about Irulan than the editing made it seem like it is. But that's also hard, because now I'm trying to suss out who made that call. And it would have been Denis, but it's hard to say. I don't know.
Yeah. I think I have a bit of a different opinion than the majority group here, perhaps. Like, it was very clear to me by the end of the movie that Chani still loves Paul. Right.
Sean the non-believer.
Look, I'm not here to be anybody's messiah, okay? I just want you to teach me your ways.
You want to fight beside us. I get it. I've heard this before.
Right. The prophecy's bullshit, okay? My mom, she knows how to transmute poison.
As it was written.
It was very clear to me at the end of the movie that Chani still loves Paul. And Paul turns to Chani and says, I will love you to my dying day, or whatever that line is. And throughout the fight with Feyd, we keep cutting back to Chani concerned. She may be about to watch Usul die right in front of her. And it's very clear to me, like, still in love, right? Maybe not happy with the choices, maybe not happy with how things are playing out, but still very much in love with Paul Atreides. And the shot at the end certainly raises a lot of questions. I don't disagree with anyone on that. Raises a ton of questions on how things will be handled in Dune Messiah. As far as the time skip goes, as far as their reconciliation, I couldn't agree with you more, Elaine, that I do believe that has to happen on screen. It would be extremely lazy and unbelievable to just assume it happens in the time skip and then just have them together at the start of the next movie and never acknowledge it or acknowledge it in a throwaway. I don't think Denny's going to do that. He's not that kind of flippant filmmaker. I do think we are going to get extra scenes of that reconciliation in Messiah, whether it's through flashbacks, whether it's at the start of the movie and then at some point in the movie we flash forward, however they choose to handle that creatively. And I, for one, believe in Denis Villeneuve. Like he has provided 2 masterpiece films and adaptations that honor the original story in many ways, in better ways than I think than any other adaptation before. And so I think he knows where he's going with Messiah. Hans Zimmer already has some sort of rough draft of a script on his desk. So,
oh shit!
Yes, Hans Zimmer I think recently said that Denny walked into his office and quietly dropped a Dune Messiah script on his desk.
Oh, God, I want to read that script.
And so Hans Zimmer is already working on the score for Messiah, and clearly a script start to finish has already been written. I'm sure it's in early drafts. Countless things will change between now and then.
Yeah.
But I am very confident Denny knows where he's going with it and has enough respect for the source material to keep intact the original themes and stories while making the necessary changes to tell this story in a different medium, right? He's working with a different toolkit. He doesn't have words on a page. He doesn't have paragraphs and paragraphs to talk about world building and lore. He has minutes and seconds on screen, on camera, to tell a visual story with pictures. And so he has to work with things differently. And I think that's just the nature of adaptation.
Yeah, I agree. Villeneuve has a very subtle visual style at times. Like there were things I didn't understand quite the first time when I saw, like with the Water of Life ceremony. It happened so fast, I couldn't really get the intricacies of it.
I know, I hated that.
To Alia. And then when I saw it the second time, yeah, you could see the blue liquid coming in, and when as a fetus opens her blue eyes. But yeah, there was some subtle things that I missed the first time. But there was one visual thing that I still am thinking about when it comes to Chani, and it is the blue scarf that she wore on her head for a while, but before the Battle of Arakeen, she took it off to wear it on her arm. Now, there was I think it was in the Art and Soul Dune Part 2 book, where I think I saw an image of it that said that the blue scarf, that Villeneuve said, that it's a quote, that the blue scarf, it means for Fremen who are in love, or something like that. So I was wondering then, after seeing that, does that mean she's less in love with Paul when she moved it to her arm? I didn't know what that meant, but it seemed like for a visual cue that I just wasn't getting at the time. Do y'all think that meant something, her taking it off of her head and moving it to her arm? Do you think that meant something?
I don't know. She still has it. I feel like if she was like not in love with him, she would have like gotten rid of it.
Yeah, her love is just kind of over here right now.
Maybe she just needed to fight, so she just like.
Well, I mean, I always think of
it's like y'all have never gotten in a fight with your significant other. You know, like I too have ridden off on a worm after a bad fight. To the best of us.
You have a beer, you ride around a bit, it's fine.
Yeah, right. But do you think Villeneuve was saying something specific with that, or am I just reading too much into it?
I mean, when I saw it, I also had questions about it, because it's like, to me, when you see the armband around the arm, like that means that you're like a believer in some cause or something, you know, like it's like, oh, I'm this, I believe this, and this is how you know. And I was also confused by that, where I was like, wait, it means she's a rebel, or she's still like, oh, I really don't believe in him as the Lisan al-Gaib. Is that supposed to represent that? It was. Yeah.
So I mean, in the book, the blue scarf means that she has a son, and that she's essentially married to Paul. But since they don't have that, it's like, so they took a different explanation of that. And Villeneuve's was that's what Fremen women wear when they're in love, or I guess going steady.
Yeah.
I don't know. So when she moved it to her arm, I'm like, it's definitely showing some conflict. She's already conflicted at that moment, because that was after the slap.
Yeah.
After you took the Water of Life.
It's really interesting. I saw somebody, I think on Twitter, and they were talking about how they didn't like how Chani was represented in Dune Messiah. The first thing you see of her is she's, rubbing Paul's feet and making him coffee and being this housewife. And she's degraded from being this, crazy warrior lady to being some subservient person. And I just, I just have so much trouble with like men think women being empowered is making them men.
Yeah.
And it's like that's not like she is the piece of the emperor. Like she's the most influential person on the emperor of the Imperium. She's one of the most powerful people in the universe. It's just like, and why is like rubbing someone's feet like a bad thing? Like why is rubbing your husband's feet like something that means you're powerless? In fact, I mean, that's like, I think it's a power position to be in.
Yeah, I tweeted about that too. That's probably we had that same page that there were ones totally misconstruing that scene.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, she was massaging his legs, so we're gonna be specific about things.
Right.
Paul had just come in from walking around.
It's a
from
sex
still
thing,
suit.
y'all. Okay, it's a metaphor.
It's called foreplay.
And the
Right.
thing is,
Like,
too,
come on, read between the lines.
she was trying to convince him of something. She wanted him to reconsider having a child with Irulan. Like it was for a specific purpose. She wanted to put him in a good mood. Like it's like just basic behavior. If you want to ask something for your parents, you make sure you ask them when they're in a good mood.
Yeah, because she knows
So
that
she's very smart.
he's in danger, so he's like, give Irulan what she wants, so you're out of danger. And he's like,
And also, this is what just this time period is. This is a very regressive time period as far as like this is a royal house, these great houses, and they're at risk of death like every moment. And having lots of children, that's just what ensured continued power. And that's just what was the custom, and that's just the only thing that was in her mind. Also, she loves Paul, and there's nothing wrong with that.
What's wrong with that?
It's a simplistic thing that people think that have this ride or die relationship, but it's one of the few bright spots in this story.
And
to have those moments of love.
Also, Chani in the book is still very much like a badass warrior too.
Yeah.
It's not like she's not a badass warrior in the book. So I don't know.
Yeah, she's
I
taking
think
on
it's
all
bad
of those
faith
people trying to
argument.
challenge Muad'Dib, right? In the book.
Yeah, I love that.
She's standing at his door, stacking up bodies.
While he's just like consumed by the chaos of prescience, she's just like doing away with all these
Taking
like
care of
would-be
business,
challengers.
Gotta get
So
through me first.
It's great.
Yeah,
I got a question.
I will say, very, very quickly, I just want to correct for the record. People in the comments are putting me on blast, rightfully so. There is no Dune Messiah script. Denny walked in and put the book Dune Messiah on Hans Zimmer's desk and said, "Start."
He's also the script is basically done.
Correction. Thank you for calling me out, y'all.
Okay, I saw the same comments. Y'all are being pedantic. The script is basically done. He's waiting. He's giving it time. It's fine.
he's still working on it. As far as that's the last I heard. He's still working on it.
Yeah,
Danica, what was your
I mean,
question?
we're years away from that movie.
Anyway, Danica.
Okay, so for Dune Messiah, how do you guys feel about Jason Momoa coming back as a Gola? Will he be able to be hate? Will he be able to have the acting chops to do hate?
I'm so glad you brought this up because I've been wondering about this forever since he got cast. And I don't know, but look, here's my thing. I don't think they necessarily have to have Jason Momoa to do hate. And let me tell you why. Because he is the product of this Laylax and Axolotl tanks. And we do know that they tampered with him, so maybe he looks a little different. Maybe he just looks a little different, and maybe he's a little bit younger because he's a Gola that's freshly grown, so he's like the younger Jason Momoa. I feel like you could get away with not having it be Jason Momoa because I don't know how Jason Momoa. I don't know if he's Mentat Duncan because hate is not the same Duncan.
Sunni.
He's super weird.
Right.
So
He's a philosopher as well.
I don't think they have to commit to Jason Momoa. I love him in Khal Drogo, obviously, but like I don't think we have to commit to Jason Momoa. That's my personal take on it.
I think it has to be him. I just think it has to be him based on like first the star power of like Jason Momoa as someone to put butts in seats, but like I think they could lean into it is weird. He is strange. And I'm like, that's because he's not the most incredible actor in the world. But it's like he's kind of this detached, maybe something that makes people feel uncomfortable, right? And disconcerting, like presence. and he could do that because that's just kind of standing and that's lighting and that's that's I think that's well within his his abilities. And again, Villeneuve, a good director can get a great performance out of an okay actor. Like, we don't need Duncan to have some crazy monologue that like moves us all to tears. I think he can serve his part just fine.
Yeah. I agree. Like, I don't think you have to, if there is any worry that Jason Momoa can't carry the role, right? Like, you can't diminish Hate's role in that story and get away with it, right? Like, he's not so critical that you must have everything that Hate does in the book translate over to the film. You can have the critical moments, and it's important to establish certain aspects of his character, right? We need to establish Gola lore just for future adaptations and whatever. We need to establish how a Gola regains their memory. That's a pivotal scene. We need to establish some sort of like flirty chemistry with Alia for their future romance and marriage together. So there's like key things you have to ask Jason Momoa to do.
And that's when
do we need him to be like a subtle Zensuni philosopher all the time? You could get away with like cutting that stuff.
Yeah, we'll see.
I think he could have chemistry with Anya Taylor-Joy. You know, he's a charming enough guy that I feel like I could see that.
Yeah.
I loved Jason Momoa back in that Stargate Atlantis days. I don't know if y'all watched that show.
No.
But that's why I thought he would make an amazing Duncan Idaho, the Swordmaster, because he had a lot of fighting choreography like that. And I think he surprised a lot of people with his turn as Duncan Idaho. I think they thought he was too bulky or something, that he may not have been able to do it. But I think he pulled it off well. He didn't seem too huge to me, but he seemed fit enough to be a Swordmaster. And I think Denis can get the performance out of that. And that's the one thing I'm really so excited about, because I loved his turn as Duncan, and that's the one thing I'm really and he's one of my favorite characters too, Duncan Idaho, so I'm so excited to see that continue. But also it's kind of neat, Stephen Colbert, I don't know if you've seen his interview with Jason Momoa. It was kind of funny when he was doing Aquaman 2 press. Colbert is a huge Dune fan, so he had to ask him about whether he knew. Okay, so he kind of said it very weird. He said, okay, we saw you die, but we didn't see, what happened to you. And we just want to know, or I just want to know if you know if you're going to be back for the next film. Don't say if you are, don't confirm it or spoil it. But do you know if you're going to, whether or not you're going to return or not? And he just says, I know. And Stephen Colbert leans in really close to look at his eyes. So I thought that was kind of funny.
That's cute.
For the metal eyes or whatever kind of Easter egg.
I don't know if they're gonna do. I don't know. I feel like they may not even do
Hate.
I don't know. Like, because I just feel like they skip over a lot of the weird stuff. Like anything that's kind of weird, they kind of gloss over it. And the whole
there was a talking embryo in this movie.
They would have to do the Spacing Guild. They would have to do the Tilaxu in some form. I don't know.
Yeah. You just can't do the next movie without the Spacing Guild. Like, if they don't have the Spacing Guild, then it doesn't make any sense. You need. Right?
We're gonna get Edric.
Absolutely.
We're gonna do Edric.
Shape of Water.
I was so excited that we were going to see the guy who directed Arrival, possibly seeing his conception of the Guild Navigator. I was so disappointed in that.
Well, like 7 months before the first movie came out, the concept artist who did the worms was in an interview just talking about, like, he asked Villeneuve, am I also going to get to design the Spacing Guild Navigator? And Villeneuve was like, yeah, probably. It's like, okay, cool. Like, sick. Like, not for this first movie, but yeah, probably. It's like, okay, great. And also, did y'all know Jason Momoa is like a world-renowned rock climber? Speaking of, like,
I get what you're saying. Hey, only the ones that have read the whole series are gonna get that one.
Yeah, but it's literally true. I was Googling, like, well, I wonder if I can find a picture of Jason Momoa rock climbing, and he does it all the time. And I was like, so I am convinced that he is the best Duncan Idaho ever for that reason alone. And then I'm just willing to, like, we'll get him the acting classes.
I see somebody in the chat, John Willis, and I agree with him. I was shocked Oscar Isaac is an amazing Duke Leto. He is phenomenal, but I'm surprised that he wasn't cast as Duncan Idaho. because I mean, I just,
He seems more
he
like
would
the book
kill that.
character.
He does, he does, and he's the only character that is in like every book, so like
But
he's
now
in
he
everything.
he's Duke Leto, so that means he gets to come back as Teg, right? Because
Yeah,
Teg
yeah,
was
yeah.
supposed to
In
look
50
like
years, they'll come
Oh
back
my
and
god!
he'll
Can
do
you
things.
imagine?
If we even get that point, that'd be crazy.
Can you imagine?
I can't imagine. I
And
can't,
honestly,
and I love it.
the age would work too because Teg is like 300 years old, so
Yeah.
he's aged a little bit. It would be perfect.
we'll get chair dogs, we'll have Teg, we'll have Jason Momoa again.
Those are dreams.
I think
Dreams
Jason
are messages
Momoa,
from the deep.
Yeah, I think Jason Momoa and Anya Taylor-Joy could have great chemistry.
I do too. Yeah, I agree.
I'm
I
so
don't know.
excited for Anya Taylor-Joy. I actually fan casted her as Princess Irulan, so I was like over the moon when that
She would have
came
been a
out.
great Princess Irulan, and I also
She would have
love
been a
her.
great Irulan.
Also, check out Queen's Gambit, everybody, if you guys haven't
Oh,
seen that.
it's so good.
And the menu
She's so
too. The
good.
menu is so good.
The menu is
Love
great.
the menu.
She has such presence, and I love like her very interesting features.
I love
Yeah,
her eyes and her
yeah.
mouth. She has a really like interesting face.
Yeah, that was cool to see her as Furiosa as the preview before.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Poor
yeah,
dude.
showing off.
Oh, hello. In case you didn't know who this was, I know you got a sneak peek of. I know it's very subtle too. Her introduction.
I was wondering how they were going to use Anya Taylor-Joy in this movie. I thought like maybe like is it going to end with like a time jump and you're going to see like Alia in Dune Messiah or something, but I like the way they used her. It was very quick, and they used her as like a vehicle to like facilitate the twist of the Baron Harkonnen being like Paul's grandfather, which by the way in the book happens like way earlier. That's not like after the Water of Life. That's like in the tent when he realizes that the Baron is his grandfather. So that was kind of different. But I understand why they reserved that for that moment because it's like at the climax of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got why they did that.
Yeah.
But that definitely changes. Like, I mean, if they were to do a Children of Dune, like that totally, like Paul killing the Baron and not Alia killing the Baron, totally like throws that off.
Yeah.
The poetry of that.
Yeah,
It's
because
like poetry, it rhymes.
exactly because then there's no longer that aspect of Alia becoming possessed by the person she killed. We're doing spoilers, people. Sorry.
Spoilers
about
on.
Yeah. One thing I understand the reasoning from a filmmaking standpoint of the changes with Alia, and I think some of it is kind of brilliant of how they kind of fused Jessica and Alia's character arcs together. So, I mean, Alia was still
Yeah.
present throughout a lot of the film. I think Paul's talking at her, I don't know, to her, but at the very beginning of the film. But as soon as we had confirmation of Anya Taylor-Joy being in it, I was like, she's the one that says you are not prepared for what's to come. That is who says it. Because at first I thought, I wasn't sure who said that line. It didn't sound familiar. And then when there was confirmation of that, she's the one that says it, and like she's Alia.
Can I just say, I'm
yeah.
sorry. I was
No,
a
man.
big fan of Fetus Alia in this movie. I thought it was super
Yeah.
creepy. Like I knew he wasn't
for
gonna do
real.
the little toddler. I knew he was not gonna do it. But the way they handled it, like I was like, this is the best way. This is the best way you could have done it. Like other than that,
Yeah.
because it's like we know from the book that she was awakened in the womb, but we never really like see that. And just to like, I imagine that like Alia as a fetus is like giving like little subtle body signals to indicate what she's saying to Jessica, and that Jessica's
Yeah.
like reading. It's not like telepathy to me. It's like I don't know. She's flexing her muscles in a subtle way, and Jessica's recognizing what she's trying to say that way. I don't know
Morse
because she's so
code.
in tune as a Bene Gesserit. They have this way of communication, and like, so I just thought it was so cool, and I loved how like every like Fremen is just like freaked out by it. Like they're like, what the fuck? This bitch
Yeah.
is talking to her stomach,
Right.
like. So yeah, I really enjoyed the way they did Alia in this movie.
Yeah, and that seemed to like infuse her character arc with Jessica, which I thought was just so interesting. I mean, there are things that I missed from Jessica's arc that were sacrificed to like fuse them together, but it seemed like yes, they were showing almost the other memory of these Fremen Reverend mothers imposing their will, or she was becoming kind of possessed by their personalities or something, and that's what drove her to in this
Abomination.
So we see a bit of that, like Abomination in Jessica.
Yeah.
So I thought
Yeah.
that was kind of fascinating that I didn't really understand before. But if you're going to go with that route, if you're going to cut down the timeline or condense it to such a degree, and that would be the way to do it, I guess, kind of combine the characters of Jessica and Alia while also trying to give them both their own personalities. But it also makes me wonder what's in store for Jessica moving forward and also Alia in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Actually,
I think it brilliantly, if we're talking about setting up Children of Dune, yes, the Baron thing complicates it, but the fact that Alia and Jessica are so tied together in this movie, they're one vehicle working together toward one goal, that, to me, heightens a lot of the tension in Children of Dune, where mother and daughter are facing off against each other. And in many ways, they're rivals. I mean,
Well,
there's an
and
assassination attempt.
And just thinking about it too, like they definitely take all of the gay pedo shit out of the Baron, and
Absolutely.
that's also would affect Abomination Alia, because he's like, oh, I'm in a body of a woman now, like, haha, I get to fuck whoever I want, like, yeah, and I'm a goddess, like, holy shit. And like it's so fucked, you know, and it's so well done. But in the context of this film, like that wouldn't work. Not that I necessarily think we're gonna get to children, but like yeah, that would be problematic.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to have to influence her in some way. I mean, she's going to, because I think having her not have her own personality before she's been forced upon all of this knowledge and memories of others is such a huge part of her character arc. Yeah, I just hope that and her just kind of being seen as the freak, even amongst the Fremen too, I feel like is a huge thing.
Well,
so yeah,
I will
just wanted
say
to keep that
I definitely enjoyed Jessica in this movie a lot more than the first one. I really, really like Jessica post Water of Life, because like in the first movie, I was waiting for that scene where she like uses the voice on Thufir. That to me, that's always been one of my favorite scenes. Like it's so epic. It's and she's like, now you know a little bit of what we can do.
It's a
like,
mic drop moment.
Figure it out.
So good.
I loved how in this movie she's like super creepy with the voice. Let him try. It's like, whoa, okay, I'll let him try.
but I love the way Leah Seydoux, like Lady Margot, used the voice in such a different way, and like it's not. She used it in more of a Bene Gesserit way, where she's just doing suggestions on you versus like I don't love the way that Jessica uses her voice, where she's always just like, give me say. You know? You're just like, oh
yeah,
do it.
Totally.
In the Margot scene,
even in the first movie, like where in the helicopter, you know, and it's like, oh, like in the Dune, the Lynch version, it's like, oh, there's no need to fight over me, oh, you know, and then the guy kills the other guy, and in this one, it's just like, kill him, do this. It's just like, oh my god, like I don't love the way she uses the voice, although it's cool and it's like it sounds really impactful. So it's really interesting.
But she is better in this movie. I think we can all.
Oh, for sure,
100%. So bridging what you're saying, Quinn and Danica. So this is my thing. We see the voice so much in this movie of just shouting commands at people, and that's like not what the voice is. And also, the Bene Gesserit don't do that for reasons that are explained in that scene with Thufir, where Thufir's like, well, why don't you do this all the time? And she's like, because then people would know how dangerous we are, and we don't want to draw that kind of attention to ourselves. And he's like, oh yeah, good point. And we as readers all go, okay, I understand why they're not using the voice all the time. And then watching part 2, I'm like, Jessica, just saying please would be good enough. Come on. Like half of the time she uses the voice in this movie, it's like, she's like, he's going to try. And she, well, that's forbidden. Do you doubt the prophecy? She's like, well, I don't. You could just say, trust in the Lisan al-Gaib, you know, or something like that. And I'm sure that Fremen woman would be like, all right, bet, I'll trust it. I'll trust. Sure.
I really liked how they handled the voice with Margot, like you guys were saying, because it's like, it's very like kind of confusing and trippy for Feyd. Is he walking behind her? Is he walking in front of her? How did I get here? It's like, that's exactly, like by the time like a Bene Gesserit is in your like castle, like it's over. Like it's over. There's nothing you can do about it. She's in control. So I really, really like the way it was portrayed in that scene. That's what I was saying earlier too. I love the Margot scenes because I really feel like they were utilizing Margot Finring to show you how the Bene Gesserit operate, to show you like how they get
100%.
things done and how they work from the shadows.
Okay, I have a really big question, and this is going to be a very controversial question, because this is the thing that I'm chewing on, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this.
Right. I would sleep with Leia Seydoux, Margot Fenring.
Oh my God, controversial.
We all would. We all would. No problem. So in the discourse, we're all talking about how, Frank Herbert was, with Paul, he's trying to show the danger of charismatic leaders and that Paul isn't a good guy, right? And so and they're very much like, okay, this is a big part of the film. And while yes, I agree with that in the context of like the first 3 books, maybe. But if you look at book 4, 5, and 6, well, if Paul hadn't have done what he did, then you wouldn't have had the God Emperor, you wouldn't have had the Golden Path, you wouldn't have had the scattering, you wouldn't have had humanity being able to survive for much longer than it would have. And so is he bad? Is he bad?
I don't know if he's like bad as in like Satan or like malicious bad, but it's kind of just like when you're in a position of power, people are going to die at your command and just because of you. Like, and especially like if you're at the center of a human universe. I think in Asimov's book Foundation, the Foundation series, he deals with this too, right? If you're at the center of the universe, like everything that you do has like this kind of ripple effect that ripples out into everything else. So like every little decision that you make is going to affect so many people. And I think it was just too much for Paul to control, and it just got out of hand. And you see in this movie too, kind of like how his hand is forced, right? It's like either I do this now and avoid like all this suffering and death for the people that I love and try and fix the problem later, or I yeah. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think you're spot on, Quinn. Like that, I don't think there is a judgment from Frank Herbert in the books being made on Paul or on Leto or on Alia or on like the characters themselves outside of like the Baron, I suppose, not being judged for their actions. I think the point that Frank Herbert is getting across is centralized power is bad. Right? Centralized power, as you're saying, Quinn, has ripple effects beyond the people controlling that power, has uncontrollable ripple effects. And so Paul Atreides is not a hero, not a villain, right? And in my mind, what he is he is a tragic character who had many choices about his life made for him. And Chani even says a line a lot just like that in the movie, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. She says to Paul, "Others have made choices for us." And
right, but then she gets all mad about it, and that's what I like. That's what I have trouble with.
Yeah.
Well, Paul can be blamed for like I think some of the massacre of like 61 billion people, but definitely not all of it, because there was like there was
maybe like 30 billion.
There's a structure. There's already a structure.
Billion was taking it too far.
There's a structure in place that allowed this to happen, right? The Bene Gesserit, right? They've been myth seeding this entire time. They like led this to happen. So it's like a lot of it was outside of his control, like for sure. And then like later in the books, when he when he sees a path in the future, that the golden path that can fix it, can you really blame him for like shying away from that and not wanting to live for 3,000 years and like suffer inside of a worm body? He's already like lost everything. So it's like
yeah,
it's tragic, and maybe he's not like a hero, but like calling him the villain is something that I've never done. I think that's a step too far for sure.
Well, and that's like what the mainstream discourse is, like what it's been reductively boiled down to. And that's kind of what's being presented, because he kind of goes Sith and he's got the dark fucking cape on, and you're kind of unsure about him at the end. I don't know. It's a mixed message, and it's interesting. I'm still, like I said, I'm still chewing on it, and that's why I want to know your opinions.
I think maybe I just want to say this. I think maybe they went heavy with that emphasis because I think people still have like the idea of the David Lynch Dune movie and that ending in their head. And I think they wanted to really distinguish themselves and be like, hey, this whole reign at the, this is not what the deal is, right? So I think maybe it had something to do with that.
Quinn, are you telling me his name is not a killing word? Because
no, he cannot crack stone with his voice. I mean, I love David Lynch as much as anybody else. I love Twin Peaks. I love the 1984 Dune, but it's not really the book, really.
Yeah.
I mean, he did the traitor subplot. He did like other things, and well. And as far as Paul goes, I always felt that, it was this tragic story. He wanted to prevent the holy war, the jihad. He wanted, there were throughout the novel, when he starts seeing it, he's like, purpose. I need to try to prevent it. But at a certain point, there was no preventing it. Even if he would have died, even if he would have let himself be killed, all the Fremen needed was the myth and the legend, and Jessica and Alia could have carried on like shepherding that. So, and he saw that there just really was no other way but to prevent as much loss of life as he could, which, yes, it wasn't, out of all of the bad options, he chose the least bad. That's what's kind of this saga is about, that there isn't any happy endings. It's about survival. And at the end of the day, survival of the human race. And it's not pretty. It's not, he came to this position of power, and he made decisions that affected billions of people. And that's what at the core strikes to the heart of Frank Herbert's story, is that even if you have good intentions, their power lets you make decisions that could cause all sorts of havoc. And I feel that it's definitely complicated and not just black and white, which is what distinguishes Dune from any other story, is that there's more nuance and more tragedy in it.
Also in
Star Wars.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, that was it. Go ahead.
I was going to say, also in the book, I'm pretty sure Jessica says something like the Mondi legend is only reserved for like the harshest of environments where they would need the maximum amount of control over like the populace. They would need like the maximum amount of like influence. I mean, so it was all set up for Paul to do what he was going to do. Like a lot of it was just really like out of his control.
Well, also, so in just talking about Paul for the last 4 years of Jabbar, I think there's an element of like the way he used his prescience, and this was before he even knew what he was doing, because there's no user manual for being a prescient super being. He was locking himself into a specific future, and unintentionally. So I think what the conclusion we came to after a couple of years of talking about it was just that he is like the ultimate tragedy, is that he has no agency. And I think what Villeneuve has done is like, okay, first movie, he's kind of a hero. Second movie, is he the villain? Third movie sets us up to say, look at how little power he has over everything. And that can, I mean, again, that sounds like a depressing fucking movie. Like,
well, it's a depressing book, though.
That's why Dune Messiah is
a sad book.
Yeah.
But it's so funny to me, because it's like, I don't need Chani to hate Paul for being the emperor. Nobody hates Paul being the emperor more than Paul. Like, he fucking hates it.
Yeah,
it's like, I don't need her,
like
being a hater.
Well, in the book, it specifically says that he says they cannot know that I do this to prevent the jihad. That's the only reason that he becomes the emperor. He's like they can't know that I do this to prevent the jihad. He says he's becoming emperor to prevent the jihad. So he's literally doing it to try and like he's attempting to have enough power and acquire enough power to be able to stop it. And then by Dune Messiah, we see that he still couldn't do it. Even as the emperor of the Imperium, the most powerful person in the entire known universe, he still can't control like all of the human universe at once.
Yeah.
Right. Which is something Leto 2 eventually gets into, right? That like this power of chaos is even beyond my ability, my near omniscient abilities still cannot stand up to like the ultimate chaotic power of the universe.
And that's why ultimately, like by the end of the series, it's a question as to whether or not Leto's prescience holds all the way up to the end, or have things been introduced like Duncan Idaho that like throw things around a little bit and change things. I don't know. So
Well, and I don't know, maybe I'm just like way too Bene Gesserit and like way too Machiavellian. And I also love Lawrence of Arabia, and Lawrence of Arabia is very much like Paul Atreides. Paul Atreides is definitely influenced by him. And again, I'm just like, I just don't see Chani's fucking problem. Like, it's just like, bro, like this is the only chance you have. And also like he's like, you're using my people, and it's like, for what? To set them up at the top of the fucking hierarchy of the entire fucking Imperium? He's not just using you and is going to discard you, and it's like whatever. He loves your culture. He is a Fremen. Like, this is a marriage. Like, this isn't some white guy just manipulating you guys and thinks you're foolish and then will cast you aside when he's done with you.
And he essentially he gives the Fremen what they wanted. Like Paul wasn't in charge of the Missionaria Protectiva. That's not actually his fault that the Missionaria Protectiva has like set up this myth. But he essentially gives them what they wanted. He like gives them full control of Arrakis, and he leads them to paradise. So but the whole point is that like fanaticism kind of sucks. It sucks when like people are put in the position that they can like fall in line behind something like this and not question it really. Like Frank Herbert. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I just think it's really interesting. Like, and this is something that I see in our own culture. And of course, you know, it's Frank Herbert showing as a mirror. But in this, you know, in Messiah, you see that there's a lot of unhappy Fremen who are at the top. We're at the top of the heap now, and they've been mainstreamed. And people even wear like fake looking still suits on other planets that aren't actual still suits, but just like copy them, because that like people always copy their oppressors and copy whoever's at the top. And like, but because they've become mainstream, they lose their way, they lose their edge. Like, they're not as tough as they used to be. Now they can relax. And their culture is broken because of that. Like, the beauty of their culture was like tied in with their oppression. And
with the desert that's disappearing.
Right. And like, that's the thing about being mainstreamed. It sucks. Like, you're gonna gain something, but you're also gonna lose something whenever you gain power, and whenever you're no longer at the bottom of the heap, and whenever you know, rise up above your oppressors. And that's a weird. It's not a. I don't know. It's interesting. It's
I
mean,
and I think we're gonna get into that with Messiah. I think we have laid the groundwork for that, like, sort of discussion to happen in Messiah, for us to see the Fremen at the top of the proverbial food chain of this Imperium start to degrade as a people. And like, even kind of going back to the point of like, why is Chani pissed about this? If Chani is not the character who is questioning this prophecy, that leaves me to wonder who is, right? Because in the book, we are in Paul's head, and we have the ability to understand that nobody hates his choices more than he does. In a movie where we aren't in Paul's head, who vocalizes hating his choices more than he does? You know, like, you do face that challenge, again, jumping from medium to medium, you face the challenge of like, you don't have long inner monologues anymore. So you need other people to voice that dissent that Paul himself is voicing in the book against himself. So, and whether or not Chani was the right character to do that, it, you know, is obviously up for debate, but you need someone to do that in a film regardless. Because otherwise the message is utterly lost. And then you just watch the rise of Paul Atreides, the hero who saved all the Fremen, and no one questioned him.
I understand the function of Chani in the movie, but I also understand why some people are upset with that the character is different. Because I know a lot of people fell in love with the character, and the character is different. So I get that, but I understand why they made this change. I'll just say that.
I mean, and I get it too. I mean, Villeneuve was saying that Chani was our window into the change of Paul, the reflection of so that it could be clear to the audience what was happening to Paul, and I understand that to a point. And I some are saying that maybe she still believed in the Mahdi prophecy. I wasn't getting that myself. Shashakli did, her friend. She was like saying the Mahdi must be Fremen, but for Chani, she was like, we believe in Fremen. She was more like the freedom of oppression will come from our own people. That's what Chani believed. So I feel like it's definitely how she's been portrayed so far in the film is gonna deeply affect going forward when it comes to her dynamic with Paul. And this is what I was saying before, that if she comes to understand somehow, if because I feel like she does have those feelings, and this was kind of in relation to the scarf that she was wearing. She's still wearing it, so I feel like she still has those feelings. And
yeah. Well, I just to that point, like I think if again we are talking like Chani as a storytelling device, I think it actually opens up a great opportunity in Messiah for like if Chani is the perspective of the reader, and Chani is the voice of dissent, then she also, in Messiah, can act as the voice of understanding. When we, the reader, realize, as we've all just been discussing, Paul is tragic. He's not the villain. So much of this is out of his control. Oh my gosh, this is way bigger than I thought, right? Like once you get into Messiah, Children of Dune, the story explodes well beyond just one planet and, you know,
Absolutely.
two, three factions. And so that is an opportunity to have Chani come to that understanding and use her once again as the vehicle to get the viewer, to also come to that understanding that what we maybe thought happened in part 1 and part 2 with Paul's journey is not exactly a hero's journey or a villain's journey, and there's much more nuance to it. Chani coming to that understanding perhaps is also the viewer coming to that understanding. She's maybe the tool there. So I'm optimistic that like if that is the way Chani was used in part 2, that's perhaps the way she'll be used in a future Messiah film, and then she is sort of the stand-in for the viewer, and she is that voice that guides us through the complexity a bit.
I think Villeneuve is a very intelligent director. I think that if anybody can pull this off and make it make sense, it would be him. But yeah, I just don't know how. I guess I'm not as good.
Right.
I can't figure it out in my mind. But
totally.
Yeah.
And it could be bad, you know? Like it could be
I hope not. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I know I in some regards I am being very optimistic. And there's always the possibility that it's
I've been very disappointed by like adaptations of classic science fiction things before. Like for instance, like I'm a big fan of Asimov's Foundation, and the Apple TV Foundation show is just like so bad. It's like not even Foundation. It's like they're trying to do
Foundation
like this,
at all.
they're trying to do like this story about like these people, and I'm just like, Foundation is not about people. Foundation is about humanity over hundreds of years. And so like I see all the time like how stories can easily be butchered by adaptations, and I feel like Dune is an example of something where these people actually care and they're trying to make something good, and they're trying to keep in line with the spirit of the books as much as they can. I mean, obviously there's things that are changed, but like I am optimistic as well. So yeah, I got my fingers crossed. Even though I don't know how it's going to turn out, I got my fingers crossed. Maybe it'll end up being 2 movies. We'll see.
I'm still so shocked though that they just chose to do movies in a post Game of Thrones world where there's a vacuum, and you've just like proven you can have a super dense, really cool, tons of characters, political machinations, fantasy bullshit. People will love it. Why they didn't make this into a show?
Yeah.
I know. I hope for at least, if we're not going to get Children of Dune on the big screen, I hope that it'll be
a TV show,
TV series form.
Well, I think honestly,
y'all aren't
I've
stoked
said
about
this.
Dune Prophecy, or
Oh god, I was just about to bring that up. Well, I think that Heretics of Dune and Chapter House do it make a great series. That'd be a good series. Yeah. And honestly, they should have just done that. Honestly, I feel like that could have been something that was happening like alongside the Villeneuve movies coming out if it was Heretics and Chapter House, because it's so disconnected. Like it's really disconnected. You could have done those at the same time and just have that's the far future, and it's not really spoiling much that's happening in the old ones. So yeah, I think they could have done that.
How do you do Chapter House with the way Chapter House ends, and then not do Hunters of Dune?
Just make something up after that. Just make something
We don't talk about Hunters of Dune. We don't talk about that. Okay, we don't
Brian's
talk about
like, I've got a rough script over here. They're like, it's fine.
No,
just wing it. Just wing it.
It's fine.
No.
Or maybe they'll
Yeah.
start over and do Dune as a series, like it should be. I mean, there is just so much
The
there.
Harry Potter treatment. Yeah.
And I,
Yeah.
exactly. And I appreciate Villeneuve's interpretation and he's really been leaning into the Bene Gesserit, and I appreciate that. But there's
Yeah.
also, I feel like these other factions being fleshed out only adds to their influence, and that's why I really miss them in this interpretation with the Spacing Guild and the Mentats, like showing their superiority, I guess, in a way of how they are the true puppet masters of the universe. I mean, you really need to have all of these pieces in play to really like get the gravitas of the Bene Gesserit, in my opinion. So that's why I feel like we really need to have that extended cut too. But
Yeah, give us the extended cut.
Give us the
With
extended cut, you
with the
coward.
Mentat.
Yeah, I will say, guys, like I am very, 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 very nervous about the Dune the Prophecy show.
Oh,
Like,
I don't hear anything good about it.
I have
People keep
no
bringing that up to me, and I'm like, no,
idea.
that's not a Dune show. That's
I
not.
have. What is it even going to be? Like,
It's
oh
changed.
my
Well,
goodness.
they
So
changed.
much.
They changed its premise. Like originally, it wasn't going to be
Sisterhood
connected to
of
the
Dune.
movies,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
then they changed. Obviously, I guess with the popularity of Villeneuve's Dune, they wanted to have it connect in that way, so that they pivoted. There's actually a new interview that Johan Renck just came out with that
Oh,
he was originally attached to direct the pilot, and I think they shot the pilot, and then they just completely redid the premise of the series. So he ended up leaving because this was just creativity by committee, and
Well,
it
at
just wasn't
first-
working for him.
At first, from what I could see from the casting, they were doing the Brian Herbert Sisterhood of Dune book because it
Yeah.
had like those
Right.
Harkonnen characters.
Lula
and,
and-
like,
Sisters,
yeah,
yep.
exactly, the sisters and the guy that So immediately from that, I was like, I don't want this. Immediately, I was
Yeah.
like, I do not, I don't
Right.
like Brian Herbert, do your thing, whatever. But like, I do not want this. I don't want to read.
Right.
I don't want to watch something about the Bene Gesserit before they're even really the Bene Gesserit.
Who
It's
wants
like,
that? Who wants that?
Yeah.
When they're
It's
not
like-
interesting yet? Okay.
It's like
no
like
thanks.
Wonder Woman 2, and she doesn't have any powers, and it's like, why the fuck am I watching a Wonder Woman movie? That,
I
just
think even
Woman
Brian
2 at that
Herbert
point.
fans, would have preferred like the Machine Crusade. Like it's just a very a weird point in time for them to focus on.
yeah.
But actually now it doesn't even seem like they're adapting that book, because there's all of like half of them are original characters. All of the royal house of Carino are original characters. All the names are different. So,
Yeah.
but except for
Yeah.
Tula and Valia Harkonnen, those
Right.
are from the book, obviously. But,
even
everything
those
else
lead
is
actors have
essentially.
left at that point, and
Yeah,
there's so many red flags.
I'm very nervous about
for that
it.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like to your point, Elaine, about creativity by committee is just the death knell of any creative project, right? Like I don't think anyone's out here arguing that part 1 and part 2 are not Denis Villeneuve's vision, right?
Yeah.
He came in and he was like, these are my fucking Dune movies, right? This is my passion project
Yeah.
that I've wanted to make my whole life. Here is my vision, and this is the arrow, and it's pointing fucking north, and this is the way we're all going. That's the kind of storytelling that, in my opinion, works.
Personally-
you need that strong singular vision coming from somebody.
I would rather them cancel the Dune the Prophecy show altogether than release something that is an abomination
Yes.
that's going to damage
Yes.
the Dune's brand. Like,
Yes.
because if you
Well
release this
said.
garbage show, it's like everyone's going to be like, oh, Dune is garbage, I guess.
We're gonna be
Yeah,
on
and then it's
such a
like, no,
high.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We're gonna be on such a high. We're riding
Like-
such a high right now off of Doom Part 2, and it's coming
I
out this
know.
year, right? Is that what they said?
It's not. There's
Did
no
they
way.
say that? Oh my
They are,
god.
Like
they
the
are-
end of
they're
this
still
year?
claiming it's coming out end of 2020.
They're gonna
That's-
shoot an
I-
episode every day. It'll be out next week. It's gonna be great.
Oh my god. Yeah, I'm surprised they're not doing like the Balerian Jihad or something. Like that would be interesting. You know, let's see how people are
Yeah,
done with machines.
I mean, if you're gonna
Yeah.
go into a different period, if it's pre-Dune, that seems like the most fascinating to me. But of course, I would
Machine.
prefer moving forward. I think they should capitalize on the momentum of Dune and Dune
see-
Messiah and move forward. Yeah.
See, that's my thing, just as a reader, just like a person that consumes media in general. I don't tend to like prequels. In fact, I tend to dislike prequels because I always want the story to move forward. And when you're doing a prequel, it usually doesn't work, I feel like. It's like Star Trek. Whenever they do a Star Trek prequel show, I'm like, like, don't go to the... Star Trek is about strange new worlds, not going to the past. You don't need to go another 100 years backwards. I don't know. I just don't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Not a
know.
fan.
I mean, you do
The
enough
show, I
Star
don't
Trek
have a lot of-
prequels, and it's just 2023 eventually. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just feel like audiences are going to be primed for just wanting more of this story.
Mhm.
And Frank Herbert was the end all be all of Dune. I feel like that's where the money is.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
where the really richness of Dune lies. And I think it's interesting if you want to go to that period of the Butlerian Jihad, because that's the foundation, you know,
Mhm.
in a lot of respects. So that seems the most fascinating, I think, to general
Yeah.
audiences, especially with AI and all of the stuff that's being more relevant today.
It's topical. Yeah.
I just don't know why they wouldn't have pivoted to that. It's very close in the time frame. Yeah, it seems kind of a missed opportunity there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, since we're talking IP, I do have a question for the group then.
Yes.
What, many of you have already expressed, would love a HBO Game of Thrones style miniseries. What sort of Dune spin-off or adaptation would you want? Like, what story do you want told, and how do you want it told? Whether it's comics, video games, anime, HBO
God Emperor
style
miniseries.
show.
God Emperor HBO miniseries. That's like
Yeah?
6
Live action?
parts.
I think
Yes.
Apple probably would do it.
Bring
I don't
James
know.
McAvoy back to
Oh my
play
God.
God Emperor.
Yes.
That would
Oh,
be
that would
really
be
good.
awesome.
I would die. I would die.
Make-
My soul would leave my body.
Make him do the worm roar
Bro,
again.
I'm a worm.
I actually am excited for Dune Awakening. I am excited
The
for that
game.
survival MMO. I think that's a cool idea. And it makes so much sense for the
It looks fun.
for the
yeah.
world of Dune. So I'm excited for
I
that.
see a dog in the mirror.
Yes, that's Kylo. He is objectively a villain. There's no gray. Objectively villain.
I think so.
It's your war pug.
I struggle so much because, like, if you're working on like written narratives, like if we're talking an adaptation like a show or a movie or something, it has to be good writing. And as far as I'm concerned, that means it has to be frank. And there's only 6
Right.
books, so it's like I like Awakening because it allows us to have an experience in the Dune universe, engaging with Dune ideas that doesn't depend on the characters and narratives of Brian's books. So I'm kind of there. It's like if I'm not getting something written by Frank, it's like give me something interactive or give me something that's like off the beaten path. I was thinking today about like I want more musicians to make like Dune music. Like
I made a
Yeah.
Dune album.
Danica, you
Dune
released an
Club.
album. That's what I'm saying.
Wait. Everybody needs to check out Dune Club because I used to listen to this while I was studying.
Yeah.
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 Dune Club.
Wait, there's 1, 2, 3, 4,
Not Dune Club.
5 of us here.
Dune Wave. I said it wrong. It's Dune Wave.
Dune Club is my
Wave.
book club, but Dune Wave is my There's an EP and a LP, so we got a full album, and then we have a little one too. So
hell yeah.
So cool.
yeah, just
Paving
Google
the way.
Dune Wave.
Yeah.
Dune Wave. Yeah. What's Patrick Perez says? What's wrong with Brian?
Well, first
What do
of
you
all,
guys hate? Why are you guys hating? He didn't say why
First
you
of
guys
all,
hate us.
first of all, all of the book covers and all the recent books are just so bad.
Yo, hideous.
Like
My
the covers
God.
are so ugly that it makes me like embarrassed when I see them in the bookstore.
The
like
re-release of
first that.
Sisterhood. Oh my God.
Also,
Brian
he
is,
fridges
Brian is
women
so frank
all
is
the
a good Misa like
But look,
yeah, he's no frank.
to be fair, like it's just the writing in the books is very, very simplistic, very just kind of like phoned in. I'm just gonna be honest; it's very phoned in, and a lot of the books are most of the books absolutely are not needed. Like I don't understand why you need all of these in between books. Like it
Right.
just doesn't make any sense. It's so obviously a cash grab. It's like
Yeah.
there's
Right.
no way Frank Herbert has this many notes for you to write 15 books. How many books is it at this point? It's
He had a whole
15
floppy
books.
drive. I mean,
Seven,
it's-
I think
Bro.
there's 17 books now, yeah.
Bro, like, okay, so I would love to see the Dune 7 notes because there is no fucking way
There's no
that
way.
Frank Herbert was going to have robot Omnius
No.
come back from the scattering and like
Erasmus.
what?
Nope,
Like,
no
or
fucking-
What happened to the face dancers?
there's bro.
Nothing.
There's no way.
Oh, they're robots? They're robots?
I'll eat
What?
my fucking hat. I'll eat my fucking hat. Get out of here. God, release the Dune 7 notes, you cowards.
Publish
I
the
wanna see
notes.
them. I need to see the receipts.
So they don't exist.
Wait, did
Yeah.
I don't know if Abu, I don't know if I told you this, but I want to get like a floppy drive and write the real Dune 7 notes,
Right.
and then just take a picture of that and put it online and be
Yeah.
like, I've also got the notes.
We're scheming over here to
Exactly.
start like a counter narrative that's like an alternative narrative where actually Leo and I have inherited Frank's notes, and
Yes.
Yeah.
it would
Dude.
totally work. I mean, like disinformation's super easy these days, you know.
I feel like with our powers combined, you know, and like we could come up with a story for like Dune 7 and then find a writer or something, and like, or even, and I know Frank would hate this, but like AI, you know, and you feed the AI like all his books so he knows how to kind of write like him, which I know is very awful and very sacrilegious to do that. But I'm not a writer, so like I don't know. Like I just feel like at some point in my life I want to make my own Dune 7. Like what is it? Like what happened?
Just figure. Yeah. I
Do
mean,
it,
I feel
yeah.
like he definitely lays the groundwork at the end of Chapter House. Like you got like the I don't know. I feel like you could figure it out. We could figure it out together.
We can figure it out. I feel like we can figure it out. Yeah.
All right.
I will
so
say, I think. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say we've
If
been
we're
going for
wrapping,
almost 2 hours, so we're going to start winding down. But say what you're going to say.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to throw in that to answer my own question about adaptations, I really think it would be fun to get an animated Dune something, right?
Yeah.
Whether it adapts one of the books, whether it's an original story set within the Dune universe, whether it's something like Star Wars Visions, where it's just, hey, this is non-canon, but we're playing around. You know, we're asking some what-if crazy questions and just having fun with it. I think animation as a medium, especially in the West, is finally starting to be respected. Like Blue Eye Samurai just came out on Netflix, and there's just some like incredible artistry on display in that show, but also some incredibly adult and mature themes. Where I think like in the East, anime is much more respected. In the West, it's just been delegated as like a kids thing. Thanks to the Pixars and Disneys of the world, but that is finally starting to shift, and I think it would be very cool to get an animated Dune project.
I want like
Hell yeah, please.
Well, and we're getting War of the Rohirrim, a Lord of the Rings animated movie at the end of this year. So I feel like that could be paving the way for.
Yeah.
I want,
There's
like,
this
For a
growing
Dune animated
respect
film.
for animation to tell adult stories.
I want a 10-hour animated adaptation of the first Dune book.
Yeah.
Just give me that. That's what I want.
Yeah, totally.
Just
And you can
balls
get
to the wall
weird,
with
you
it.
know?
They can do a
for
Song of Ice
example,
and Fire
have, like,
too. I
a-
would love that.
Oh, please.
Oh, yeah.
Animated.
Please.
Let's
I
throw,
wanna
me
let's
see
throw
100 hours.
foundation in there, you know? If we're throwing hoops, let's throw
Throw it
foundation
in.
in there.
it. Yeah.
And I
Which
like
one-
stuff like Nausicaa is like a prelude or is
Yeah.
a taste of what Dune could be in animated form. Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind.
Mhm.
True.
I love that
True.
movie. So
Mm-hmm.
It could be
that's
so
what's
beautiful.
possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm down. I'm down to clown. Give me all the anime stuff, please. But I want the Japanese to animate it. I want them to do it because they're like
Yeah.
that's what they're good at. Like
I mean, they're the
they're better
greatest.
than they're really good at it. I don't know, so like let them handle it.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll get like some other multimedia projects. I love the graphic novel that's coming out of Dune. I think it's 2 is out, but I
Wait.
think the third one.
The graphic novels. Oh, okay, yeah. I
Yeah,
have
of
those.
Dune's Frank. Yeah,
I'm not a fan of those, just because of the art. I find the art
the
in
art style?
those. I do not like the art. I wish they went with a different art style, but I don't know.
yeah.
I don't
Well,
know.
hopefully
I
it'll
do
lead to more stuff, like more games, more
Totally.
things.
And I do want to encourage everybody who has like read the books, and if you really enjoy even just the first book, definitely check out Foundation series. That's like because you can just see where Frank got inspired. Like Foundation series absolutely set the foundation for Dune and inspired Frank Herbert to do this. Oh yeah, what if humanity over thousands and thousands of years and what happens? You know, it's just it's really interesting. At first, it's very different than Dune. It's not the same type of thing. It's written very differently, but it's totally worth checking out if you're a Dune fan and you're looking for more stuff. Like you can definitely see the parallels.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
the
I'm
way
just getting
he-
into The Expanse. I just read the first book, and I'm
Ah.
like, I see Frank Herbert influences on that so much.
The writers were
good.
editors for George R. R. Martin. The guys that wrote those books. James A. Corey is their like what do you call that pseudonym? It's like 2 guys. But yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
anybody
same
got
time
any?
next week?
Yeah. I'm down. Anybody got any
I mean, we
final...
have a seventh book to rate, I think, based on
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. We need to have our
Honestly,
An anime?
we should get together and do like a 7 Dune book, like what if. I would have to take some notes, but
Oh,
yeah.
we don't know. We definitely have to prepare for that.
Yeah,
We'd have to do some
yeah.
prep work for that. But,
That would
like,
be fun.
mhm. And it's like, is it directly after the 6th book? Is it another time jump? You know, I mean, these are a lot of questions here.
Lots of questions.
Lots of questions.
Oh, it would be interesting. What if Frank Herbert was planning on doing another time jump? That'd be crazy. He's like, you thought you were going to get this? Actually, it's 500 years later.
Right.
Like, screw you.
I can see him doing that.
He's done it before. He'll do it again.
All right. All right. So, Nerd Cookies, tell the people where they can find you and your content.
Oh, well, thank you so much again for having me. This was so much fun getting to chat with
Absolutely.
you guys and in the chat as well, seeing all your comments and getting to nerd out on Dune and getting all of the nitty gritty. This was so much fun. But you can find me here on YouTube at Nerd Cookies, and I cover lots of sci-fi and fantasy news and lore, and including Dune, but also other things as well if you want to check it out. And you can also follow me on social media at Nerd Cookies. Thanks again, guys. This was awesome.
Nice. Leo.
Oh, well, me and Abu produce Jabbar, which is one of the best Dune podcasts in the world.
It's a good podcast.
Thank you. Oh, that means a
Oh,
lot.
thank
Means a
you.
lot
Yeah.
from this crew.
Yeah,
And
especially.
we have spoiler-free episodes for people who are just getting their feet seas in the sand. We also have, of course, the deep dive episodes talking about all of the junk from the earliest, old Terra legends to the final days of, I don't know, heretics, chair
Legends
dogs.
of Old Terra.
We love chair dogs. We stand chair
Oh, the
dogs.
chair dogs.
So weird. God damn it, I love it. It's so weird.
I know, the chair dogs. I wish I had one now. It just seems comfortable. Like sometimes, like when I'm sitting on the couch, my dog will like walk up like under my legs, and I'll be like, "Chair dog, yes." So like,
Yeah,
I
that's
just
so
need.
funny.
Yeah.
So
All
funny.
right. So Danica, tell the people where they can find you.
Yes, you guys can find me on YouTube. I am Comicbookgirl19 on YouTube. And on Twitter and Instagram, I'm at DanicaXIX. And if you want to download my Dune Wave album, it's like on every streaming platform. You can listen to it for free on YouTube, on my channel, see if you like it, and you can download it anywhere. And yeah, that's it.
And her Dune Club, by the way, is like the best guide to the first Dune book.
Oh, thank
Like
you.
seriously, I watched it as I was like working on my Ultimate Guide to Dune. So like, yeah.
Oh,
Absolutely.
thank you. Yeah, I did a book club for each of the Dune books, so you can read along with me if it's because it is a dense book and it is hard, so I can help get you safely across the sands of Arrakis.
Absolutely.
Nice.
And you guys know who I am. This is my channel. So yeah. Yeah.
I'm
So-
here.
So it's been so much fun having you guys. Like really, really thank you for coming. Especially you, Danica. Like I said, you're a huge inspiration. Like I was so nervous to talk to you. Like big fan for like many, many, many years. So like I love you, love your channel, love your content. And thanks Leo and Abu as well. And thank you Nerd Cookies
Thank you
as
so
well. All right, guys. We're gonna get
My
out of here
pleasure.
now. See you later, guys.
It was a pleasure.
It was a
Bye.
pleasure.